Hi, I'm Georgette Pierre, and you're listening to Black and Nuanced Podcast, dispelling the idea that all Black people are monoliths, because we're not. My guests and I bring our varying perspectives to pop culture, relationships, and things we go through that we can't always name. Welcome to Black and Nuanced. Shout out to Excitement Radio and the highly unique South Florida radio, holding me down in Miami/South Florida. Okay, so I have a special guest on with me this week, per usual. He's a friend from high school, but I'm not even going to spoil the intro. Check out my conversation with Bunx Dadda. This is Black and Nuanced Podcast, Rona edition, and I am your host, Georgette Pierre, and I have another special guest co-host on with me this week, aka I know him as something else, right? Because we went to high school together, but he goes by Bunx Dadda, artist, producer, songwriter, vibe guru. Help me out, Bunx. How would you describe yourself? Yes.
All of the above, just purveyor of dope things.
I like that. That, purveyor of dope things. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're in the La, aka LA, California. And I know, our states are kind of in the middle of the whole epicenter with Rona. Like, I live in New York, and I took refuge at my mom's house in Virginia temporarily. And, how have things been in California for you, though? Is it still as crazy as it seems?
To be honest, I mean, it's a crazy time and all that, but my lifestyle hasn't really changed as much. Like,
okay,
I'm pretty much always in the studio or working from home. So, with the exception of the studio being available right now, everything's pretty much, on the up on my end. I do miss hanging out with my friends. I do miss going out to places and like, just hearing music and catching a vibe. But, we'll be back.
We will be back. I like that. So there are so many things that you've been working on and that you've touched. And, I want to hone in on the specific things that you're working on currently versus doing a blast from the past. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, so let's talk about some projects that you're a part of. And then I want to transition into like your own personal projects. So an artist that I want to say that you discovered that you put me on to several years ago from the DMV area. I interviewed her on one of my older internet radio shows, Kali Uchis. She dropped a new project or a new EP, and you had something to do with a track or a few on there. Talk to me about, that collaboration on this specific project.
Word. Yeah, it was dope. It kind of just came up, a couple months ago. She reached out to me and just, tapped in and was like, we had some uncut we got a lot of music in the tuck that we just created over the years. When we initially linked up, we went in and we did a lot of experimenting and just covered a lot of ground musically. So there was like a lot of records that kind of just didn't necessarily fit at the time or were kind of just like outliers, but we wanted to like revisit some of those. So it was cool to go back and just like, touch up some of the records, try some new things. And then a lot of the stuff was just like just demos that were just dope, that the fans might have kind of knew about or just always wanted to get a full length version. So Angel was one of those records, and before that it was known as Pablo Escobar, but now it's finally out, and it's a good vibe.
I love that. So it's I want to harp on the point that a lot of us don't understand because we're the outside looking in. Artists and producers produce a lot of songs or create a lot of songs that stay, as you said, in the tuck. How often is that happening? And because sometimes when we think like, oh man, like, they just dropped this or they worked on this, like for instance, and I know we're going to touch on it too with the Versus series when Little John and T-Pain were going back and forth. Little John dropped an Usher track that was 2 years old. So how often do you find yourself?
And it was amazing too, right?
Yes. And so in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, how many fire tracks, Bunx, are you sitting on with a lot of artists that you worked with before they became big artists?
I have a lot of music that I'm sitting on myself for sure. I try to, archive as much as I can and to the best of my ability. Over the years, you might, laptops get destroyed, lost, whatever, and things like that, but you still try to hold on to certain things. I have records that I've definitely worked on that have never come out. I've never really told anybody, but like, I definitely have like, there's like a Chris Brown record out there that never dropped that I like sat in on the session, watched him record and all that. There was just a lot going on his end at the time. So it didn't, kind of got lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
But to see Breezy, man, that would have been great for VA, and of course for my career at the time. So for that to have dropped, but it is what it is. And then, there's so many reasons why things don't drop. Like I got several music videos that are just in the can that we shot the whole thing and it just didn't drop. I know a lot of artists have the same type of situation on another level. Like there's like a Stevie Wonder Michael Jackson duet album that exists allegedly that like Stevie Wonder has, and it's like some people have heard when they hang out with him, but like it's just not out. I'm sure even on that reason, it's like not even a money thing. It's just like something personal,
Right.
you know, from legal reasons, personal reasons, timing, all kind of things
Just
hold up situations, or just, you know,
play a
doesn't
factor.
manifest. It doesn't manifest. Yeah.
Yeah, well, speaking of stuff in the tuck, I'm sure there may have been tracks that you created for other artists that have also been inspiration for your own personal projects. Like, let's talk about your thing. Like, you did a little bit of a shift, right? You were focusing on one genre back in the day that when I saw you coming up and doing your thing in music, and now you're really honing in even on, like, your roots, right? Because our families are both from the Caribbean islands, different islands, but let's kinda jump into that with your reggae project. If there's also been projects or things that you've created where you're just like, kind of like Kanye. Kanye's like, let me take this. Actually, this was supposed to be for so and so, but I'm actually going to use it. I don't know if you've had those encounters or those situations as well.
1000%. I mean, every artist has their own mental kind of like timeline and like creative risk taking that they go through, and like, yeah, so over the years, like, you know, I started off doing rap, hip hop, trap. That was like what all my friends was doing,
Hmm.
and I was successful with it. Like I got major offers and stuff like that. Did MTV and early World Star days, like, you know what I mean, when it was like almost impossible to get on there. Like just a bunch of different things that I was kind of like making good strides basically with the music, but ultimately it wasn't fulfilling for me.
Mm.
And the way the culture was kind of going at the time, it seemed like the music was getting a little extra disrespectful, and to compete and to be heard, you kind of had to be in that pocket. So like
Mm.
I had a shift where I realized, like, damn, like the music I've been putting out, I couldn't even invite like my family to come see one of my shows. And I used to have crazy shows that would go up, you know, but I just felt like culture was going to shift, and I felt like I needed to tap into what's most unique about me. I mean, so, at least amongst like, you know, in the environments that I was in, and that was like my roots, you know. So having grown up around soca, reggae, dancehall, all of that, calypso music, I wanted to challenge myself to create from that standpoint and
Hmm.
really make music that like would be timeless, you know, from in a Bob Marley type of way, but also make music that would be like perfect for the turn up and still keep that energy that I had in my music before as far as a live performance, but have it be more tuned into the roots of what even put me onto music to begin with. You know what I'm saying? My dad was a DJ, so I had a lot of time to just sit there and like listen to Sparrow records and like
Yes.
Bob Marley records. And shout out to my uncle and my aunt. Like they are the ones who put me on to like Buju and Beanie and Bounty Killer. And my uncle used to listen to, well, he used to have like all the tapes from all the clashes, like Kilimanjaro, Stone Love, Metro Media, King Addies. Like, so I would listen to all of that and not have an outlet to really put it, because once I leave the house, no one else around me could really relate. I mean, I think that's kind of what made you and I even connect early on as friends, was like you're Trini, my family's from St. Kitts and Nevis,
Yep.
and we didn't really, we maybe knew like two other people,
Right.
and like one of them I was probably related to, or you was probably related to, or something. So outside of that, it was like, you know, once I moved to LA and lived in New York for a little bit and got to kind of like touch our culture, but in different American settings, I was like, okay, I think I got a scope on this, and I understand, you know, the pepper seed, everybody had that moment. If you grew up in the 90s, you know, the Bogle, everybody had that moment.
Hmm.
Murder She Wrote is a big record here, overseas, around the world. Like certain cues and, no pun intended, but nuances of our culture that resonated, you know, worldwide. So I started taking note of that and was like, you know what, I want to challenge myself to create some music not only that I would love, but would resonate with my family as well.
Yes, I'm
And kind of reflect the you know, the narrative from growing up musically.
absolutely. I'm always here for the puns, by the way. Nuance.
I'm
Um,
fun dad, bro. If you know me, I got the worst. I got the dad jokes on deck. All that.
Well, I want to know, like, I know when you transitioned into it, you've been dropping things here and there. I remember, I think a couple of years ago, because I remember living in my old apartment, and I remember where I was when you sent me a couple of tracks. And to this day, Bunx, I listen to those tracks on my phone in my iTunes. So what is the delay or the timing for you to drop your project? Like I'm like, I turn up to some of these things. I'm just like, I like the direction because I think, one, to your point, you're going to put more and I think a lot more inspiration will come out when you're in a space where it feels more genuine versus contrived. And obviously
Yeah.
a lot of artists are going the contrived method, right? And they don't last long, but you just seem really in your bag, in your lane, but you could still hop in and out, which I want to make sure we're clear about as well. Like, just because this is where you're going as an artist doesn't mean you can't hop in and out to different genres as a producer. But back to your project, what's going on as far as you releasing it? Are the tracks done? Are you waiting for some other things? What I want to know more about that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, I've been just casually just building it. I've had little moments here and there where I tease and it almost seemed like I'm about to drop, but it's kind of a gift and a curse to be able to step in and out of the artist hat. And also, like you mentioned, I've helped, develop certain artists or whatever in the past. I kind of want things to be right. I know what it feels like to drop and have all your ducks in a row. And I know what it feels like to not have everything together and to kind of, miss an opportunity. So I spent a lot of time, while I was producing for other artists and working with other artists, just building my network as Bunx, and also like just tuning into the culture and seeing how things operate in Hollywood, how things operate in New York, how things operate in St. Kitts and Nevis, like how things operate in the UK. I just, was in London a couple months ago, and it was one of the greatest experiences I've had overseas, especially with the meetings and sessions that I was able to take. So it's all shaped my perspective on how I want my shit to drop and like where I want it to sit. You know what I mean? Because I'm a little elusive. You know what I mean? But like I want ultimately to basically say that I was able to add to the narrative of the Shabba Ranks, Super Cat, Shaggy, Sean Paul, Rihanna, and even shout out to Drake. You know what I'm saying? Like that lineage of those moments when the music was celebrated worldwide. I'm aiming for that. So it's not something that I'm just gonna behind the back, no look. I'm definitely gonna, make sure that it's right. I have two. I've been blessed to have two solid, like I have some amazing relationships and mentors in my life. You know what I mean? And like I want to make sure that I make the most of this opportunity when I do ask for people's attention. You feel me?
I love that. I love that. And so I want to introduce, because you are doing us the honors. I want to introduce, or have you introduce, a track that they'll hear a snippet of. Tell us about the track, the name of the track, and just kind of the inspiration behind it.
So yeah, I think I sent you Callin, which is it's not necessarily a single or anything like that. It may or may not hit Spotify. See, I'm doing it right now. But nah, it's just it was the last record that I teased right before quarantine. I think literally the first week of quarantine, I went live and I was just playing it. It was kind of inspired by like just being at home those first couple of days of quarantine and just like thinking like, yo, this is my message to like the hot girl that I'm like can't wait to bump into again at Los Globos or at any of these spots out here that the scene is really thriving at. Like it's like I'm calling and like just make sure that as soon as this is over you pull up. Like we got a link, first night out. This is what it's gonna feel like and sound like the first night out. And there's a line in there that says like, fall in love, we don't want to fall in love, we just want to fall in the club again.
We just wanna fall in the club again, yeah. Ball in the club again, yeah. Fall in love. We don't wanna fall in love. We just wanna fall in the club again.
Fall in the club, and that's just, for those of us that frequent the scene, you know what I mean, that lime and hola vibe and thing like that, you know what I mean, like it's that. All right, we stepping out. And I hope I see such and such. I hope she's there. I hope she come with her friend. You know what I mean? That type of vibe. So, and yeah, hopefully it makes the project.
Bunx, I actually remember this track because you did a little like peekaboo, just kidding on Twitter. And I remember, I retweeted it and then you sent a message and then the shit was gone. But I'm not mad. I actually remember as you were the lyric, referencing the lyric, I actually remember it and I was vibing. But I always, there's certain people where you could drop anything and I'm rocking with it. And you really, again, as elusive and esoteric as you are, you still really put your energy and your time into honing your craft, and it definitely shows when we do get to hear some of the things that you preview on your lives and things like that. It's funny because on your live, which I really don't go on like that, like I'm not really on Instagram, I'm not on people's lives like that, I end up licensing a track from you because I was like, bitch, please pull up with this track. Like, what are you holding on to? Stop playing, Bunx.
I know. And sometimes you just, as an artist, you might be shy to share your music or not sure how people are going to respond to it. So you got to kind of do that, just check the temperature every now and then. I also do want to say, like, it was interesting because I look back, certain artists, I feel like some of the greatest artists, they build up to a moment, and then they drop, and then they campaign, and then they fall back. And they let culture and life happen and shift, and things happen in their own lives and things like that. And then they resurface.
Yep.
Look how long Rihanna's been teasing us with her record. Look how long it's been since Frank Ocean dropped the album. Yep. I've been watching a lot of Michael Jackson stuff over the quarantine, and I realized, like, I think Off the Wall came out in like 79. And then we had Thriller in 82 or 83. And then we had Bad in like 88. And then we had Dangerous in 92. And then I want to say Invincible came around like 90. History came around 96. And I want to say Invincible came around like 01.
Oh, shit.
And it's like a 4-year gap between each one. And it's like artists I know from, because I'm on, on the behind the scenes, the production side of it, all your favorite artists are always recorded all the time. So what you get every 4 years, every 5 years, those are the best of what you haven't heard. That they, you know what I mean? Usually there are artists probably more on the hip hop side that'll sit down for like 4 weeks and put together something amazing. And that has happened. But I tend to see, like with the greats, people that have had the iconic moments, is really a culmination or a compilation of the best moments from since they dropped their last project. There's something to be said about that because it speaks to just quality and the dedication that you have to your craft. You know what I mean? To be able to have a record that you work on for 2 to 3 years at a time. I hope that people will understand and hear that in my music, because I really had to basically start over and relearn how to make music and learn how to use my voice and learn how to harmonize and record myself, mix myself, what plugins sounded right over this type of music, what was my songwriting going to be about, what was my songwriting structure going to be like, what was my, you know what I mean? So I almost basically started over in 2016 when I moved back to LA with last week. So.
It's funny but my question to you was, as you were saying those types of things, I was like, well, what are the challenges that you're facing being the artist now and the producer, right? Because you came in producing, you got that on lock, but now with you being someone that was always comfy behind the scene, what have you faced and what have you pushed through and conquered navigating both?
There's no real issue with the producing and the artist thing. It's just really finding that moment in time where you can kind of fall back from the other things, and hopefully you don't have like records and stuff coming out that you need to promote, that so that you can just focus on your own project and really pump that and put that first. You know what I mean? So like I'm always getting hit up constantly for projects. I'm never not working on something. There's so many things that I'm simultaneously always working on. You know what I mean? And so finding a moment to pause that is probably, I guess, what would be the most tasking. But some people only know me as a producer, right? So I want to be able to convince those people, because there might be a stigma in their mind, like, oh, he's trying this, when it's really like, I've always been doing all of these things. You know what I mean? That's probably it, I guess. Just convincing people that I'm serious about this and like letting it reflect in the music, you know?
Yeah, it makes me think about Kanye. I mean, obviously, because I'm not an artist or a producer, we couldn't understand what Kanye was going through when he wasn't being taken seriously, and you heard a lot of that come out in his.
I gravitated to Kanye more for his energy than for his production. Like, I loved his production, but Kanye he's like a Puff in the sense where like he can take a beat that's cool and get on the table and tell you why your life is going to change if you cut this record, and why the world needs this and why it makes sense. And, you know what I mean? And really sell it. And I identify with his plight as far as like, yo, I got beats, but I got rhymes too.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so you said that's what I thought about.
that too. Like, you know what I mean? Some people don't want to really see you in any other light. They're more comfortable with you being in a certain lane or pocket in how it relates to them. So sometimes if you step out of that, it ruffles feathers or it makes people uncomfortable. And I'm all for making people uncomfortable as far as, you know, misconceptions or not understanding like my full talent range.
I love it, but that's who I thought about exactly as you were saying those things. I thought about Kanye too, and so I think with anything, people, I think with most fields or wherever people are, there's a level of complacency that people have, and then when someone like you can do multiple things and actually excel in multiple
Yeah.
things at the same time, people start to see their mediocrity and they would rather you stay where they are. But obviously, we know that's not happening with Bunx. So I want to transition to what's been going on musically on social media, which has gotten everyone plugged in. I'm actually a little anxious about the next Versus series, but Timberland and Swiss Beats have been talking about their Versus series, and they said this was an idea that they had in mind years ago, and then they planted the seed, and we've been seeing so many different battles. As an artist, and just you being a fan of their work, I'm sure, what has been your take on a lot of this, and then even kind of juxtaposing it with clash culture, which is really big in the reggae genre as well.
I love it. I love it 1000%. I'm so happy. I'm also so happy that it's like the main thing that's happening. As I said, I grew up listening to sound clashes and knowing who Ricky Trooper was and knowing who Sky Juice was and all these different people. Shout out to DJ Delano Renaissance. You know what I mean? Like DJ Super Slice, he used to DJ on KYS in DC, and like I used to record his sets every weekend. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I also want to say, side note, Swiss Beats was like who made me want to start making beats. And Timberland and Pharrell is who I like studied once I really learned how to make a beat. And like foundation. But anyway, I love it, and I really just want to say I hope we keep the same energy once we get to go back outside, because I would love to see this really happen in a venue where the people are right there. You can feel and hear the energy. You can see the response, get the crowd reaction right there in real time. I want to see these artists pull up and be in the same room and do it with a crowd, because that's how they've been doing it in Jamaica and around the world. You know what I mean? So I am extremely excited. I'm here for all of the smoke. I'm ready to clash with whoever. And like, I really don't care who it is. Like, I'll clash with the biggest artists because I really just want to do it for the culture. You know what I'm saying? And push the narrative forward, because we really need that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there could really be a lot of stars being made in clash culture in America, the same way that we have athletes and sports stars. You know what I'm saying? Like, you will see a clash where both artists are wearing sponsors on their clothes or whoever's sponsoring their equipment. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's gonna happen. I'm calling it now. Like, and also like that was part of why I went back to LA, was because I saw what it was in New York. I saw what it was in DC. I saw what it was kind of on the island tip when I would go to Nevis, and it wasn't really present in LA like that. And I was like, yo, there's a whole new generation that would love to be in that type of setting and see one DJ take Cash Money and the other DJ take Rockefeller, and they just go back and forth and just, crowd response off of each song and have narrative and banter between that. And like I said, just create legends in the DJ space, in the dancehall reggae space, in hip hop period. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a whole untapped energy stream, and of course financial like revenue stream that just hasn't really existed here. Shout out to UK, because they've been on that forever. And of course make it a home and the origination of the whole vibe. So I can't wait. And like I said, I'm here for all the smoke. I might try and get a job at Versus or something and see if I can do something over there.
You know what?
I literally love this shit. Like, I love this shit.
That's so funny you said that about a job. So two things. Like, I remember reading the interviews, because now they were getting covered by the white platforms like, CNNs and Good Morning America. And I know in an article that I read, they have been getting hit up by sponsors, but Swiss and Timbo have made it very clear that they're doing this right now for the culture. The money will come. That's not something they're focused on, as far as like having certain people or brands or logos in the videos on Instagram. But
we don't really have much of a choice. You know what I mean? Like, shout out to D Nice as well. Like, he doing probably the most that he's ever done as far as consistently, like, he be on there every night. And I'm like, yo, shout out to D Nice. You know what I mean? I've been to a couple of D Nice situations where he's been killing it. And I'm like, yo, and he'll give us like a hour, 2 hours, 3 hours and be killing it. And I'm like, yo, he's doing this every night.
Yes, and
for like thousands of people.
absolutely. And
So
and Facebook has made exceptions for your D-Nices, and I don't know if they made the exception or Swiss there was a snafu, but, Instagram Live is only an hour, right? And they had allowed him to go on for hours and hours and hours, and I think from what I saw with Swiss, I even saw Facebook or Instagram respond back as far as from their account saying, I hope you're enjoying the Versus series, and remember they had 500,000 people in there watching Babyface and Teddy Riley the second time
like,
around.
Thank you very much.
You said what?
It was like, yeah, the server is
right.
crazy.
It was crazy, but it was funny to the point that you were like, you wanted to work for Versus. One of my girlfriends was like, yo, you need to pitch to Swiss about working for them. I was like, I hope they build a team because the little things that they are still in the weeds with, easy. I could take that off your hands.
I could definitely see you hosting a battle and being like the moderator or whatever, like, and being hype and getting the crowd like into it. You know what I mean? For sure.
Even from like a technical standpoint too, like the little things of them having to talk to so-and-so's people and so-and-so's people. I'm like, yo, I deal with production. So I'm with you on the job tip or like the partnering tip, whatever help they need. Cause it's going to be a thing, Bunx. Once Rona's over, it's definitely going to be a thing. Definitely going to be a thing. I see that. I want to transition more into, cause you have mentioned this earlier, talk about artist development and what that means. Are you working with or managing any artists under your imprint? Do you have an imprint that you're moving forward with as far as with you focusing on what you're focusing on now?
Right now I'm kind of just loosely operating through my own brand, Bunx, and then also Vibrate, which is like kind of like an offshoot of what I do, but it's like a home for just like my playlists and things that I curate, events, and just other things that I want to like kind of that I might have a hand in, or things that are going on. So I'm glad you brought that up because I'm kind of at a point where it's just common kind of like talk in the industry as far as artist development being dead, and I realize that's the part that I love as far as from outside of the artist standpoint. Like when I'm dealing with other artists, it's the early developmental stage. You know what I mean? Where they're building a sound and they're building their whole persona, their aesthetic. It's a very exciting time. You know what I mean? It's a very you got to put the work in for sure. But it's just dope to see the evolution of an artist from them just having this idea of what they want to be or what they want to put out to the world in their head, and then them actually manifested it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like my strengths and my abilities are more focused to that stage of like an artist journey. And also just because like I've never been well, I'm not gonna say I've never been. I came into the game thinking that I was gonna have to chase Jay-Z and Beyonce and Missy and Usher, Nicki Minaj to try and get on their albums, right? And I would send music out and I get feedback and response. Like I said, I've done records with everyone from Chris Brown all the way to the next up and coming artist. But, I wasn't having the most success with that. Like I was getting records and stuff, but they were like album cuts, so they weren't singles and stuff. So I realized, I don't know who I heard it from, but somebody said something that really just stuck with me and was like, yo, you can have a lot of hits and all that. I really want to say it was Tim who said this, but it was like, there's a lot of artists who got a lot of hits and all that, but it's like, you're not really a producer in this game until you bring something to the culture and create a sound or create a wave, you know what I mean? Bring something new. And that's what kind of got me like, all right, I need to not worry about these multi-platinum artists that are already big, already got teams, already got producers that they, that's their bread and butter. They got their little cousin or their little brother or sister that makes beats and is in their ear trying to, what I mean? It's just a lot going on with them. Let me try and work something from the ground up and really develop something. And that's what I really love about the Kali Uchis situation, to be honest, because like it was a great experience to be able to like play off of her vibe and put my twist on it and go back and forth and like come up with this like kind of doo-woppy but like still vibey sound, you know what I'm saying? And like from Multi to Honey Baby to Real, a lot of them got that kind of like 420 type of quality to them, and it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a vibe, like, and you know, that was really important for me to to feel like I was really a producer or had or was capable of producing, was actually developing something with the artist. You know what I'm saying? So that experience is what kind of shaped my perspective on what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be an A&R at one point and all that, but I think what's ultimately going to happen probably through Vibrate is just some type of hub or situation where you know, people that the label might be very excited about, but they may not want to invest too many resources into, or they're not really sure. Like, you know, today following and social media and all that is so intricate. I mean, so integral in the, you know, discovery of artists and stuff. So it's like, all right, let's get the music and all that part ready, and y'all deal with that. But I'm gonna make sure that there's something really polished and shined up here, and me and the artist, or my team and the artist, are going to make, you know, these ideas come to fruition. And that's what excites me about production. Like, my discography kind of reflects that, because it's all passion projects, you know what I mean? Like, people that I was introduced to directly, or I'm actually friends with these people and like still talk to these people to this day. It's not like, oh, I did a record with such and such and I can't even get into the concert. Like, shit like that, you know what I mean? It's like, I know these people, and I think that's dope, you know what I mean? Like,
That's a real thing too. People.
but like, yo, Bieber hit my line though. Still, like, I'm not, you know, I'm still with the. Yo, not in my line. I'm still with the shits. Anyway,
That's what that's
yeah.
what's up. And then can you talk to me about your production style? Because I know how you had just made mention of that. What's your production style? And for those that, you know, for whatever they can expect. I know they heard a clip of Callin, but you know, what can they expect when your project drops? And for like even the people that you work with as well.
Again, nuances. You know what I'm saying? That's a good word to kind of like go off of, because like, you know, a beat is a beat is a beat. But like, somebody, shout out to Coast Contra. I was in the studio with them recently, man. And if you haven't heard of them, you're gonna hear about them soon. But like, they were, you know, we was playing back some of my shit, and one of them said, yo, I really like the palette that you like create from. And I'm like, that's fire. Like, yo, like, my color scheme is just different. You know what I mean? I'm just using a different palette than other people. And I think people fuck with that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you listen to my production, it's kind of like I really put thought into bringing the best elements together. And I try to be as minimal as possible, while still being able to move you. You know what I mean? I'm very big on rhythms and like the percussion and the drums. You know what I mean? That's where Bunx comes from. It's like Bunx is like me tricking people into speaking patois. So it's like, instead of saying bounce, the bounce to the beat, the bounce to the rhythm, it's like the bunks. It's like Bunx Dadda. It's like the bounce father. You know what I mean?
I thought it was funny because you were so much better at doing a Caribbean accent, and so when you said when you were like, "Give me a bonks," I was like, "Oh, that is exactly what it sounds like." And so
Yeah.
I love the play on it. I love the play. I was like, "He got me.
Yeah.
He got me real."
And also, like, people be like, "What does that mean? Like, where did you come up with that?" When I decided to go by, you know, when I was thinking of a name, basically, I was like, I need a name that just sounds, oh, like, you know, when you say it, like, and I referenced like Shabba Ranks, like, that just sounds like who,
Right.
like Puff Daddy, you know what I mean? Buster Rhymes, you know what I'm saying? Like, so Bunx Dadda is like, I was like, all right. Like, most times when I pull up and I come to it, it's like Bunx, and I love that shit. Like, they organically just say it
It
like
just
that. Like,
hits.
it just feels like you gotta say it, like, you know what I'm saying, with some bass in your
Yeah,
chest. You know?
say it with your chest. Say it with your
Thank you.
chest. So, before we get into this last segment, I know I've noticed some imagery on your lives and different things that you do. Burning palm tree. What does that mean? You know, does that symbolize anything to you? Just curious.
It has a lot of meanings. I guess it's open for interpretation, just like, you know, art. I just collect these images off the internet, you know, to be honest, and like, they just all kind of like, to me, resemble just different scenarios and different circumstances. And what I mean by that is like, you know, I might see one burning palm tree and be like, yo, it's lit. Like, you know, when you say something's fire or the party was lit, or, you know, that type of energy, like in a positive sense. And then it also, I might see another one, and it might, to me, resemble destruction, you know, of something beautiful, or tragedy. It's a dire situation, and like these palm trees are so high off the ground, it's like hard to put those fires out because it's like you got to get up there, you know what I mean? And it's just like they palm trees to me when I'm riding down the 10 or whatever in LA and stuff like that, especially, it's like they're so spread out. It's like I like when I see two of them together because I almost feel like they have conversations. You know what I'm
Oh, I
saying?
love that.
Palm tree by itself, I'm just like, damn, like it gets to see everything and it has a dope perspective, but it's just like all to itself, you know what I mean? This part of our conversation right here might give the most insight as to what type of person I am and how my mind works because I'm very intuitive and very just like perceptive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always remember just having like a dope imagination growing up and being able to like watch movies of like all kinds, you know what I mean? And really tap into the escapism part of it, you know? So it just has resonated with me for like the last 5 or 6 years, you know what I'm saying? It's just something that just hit me and like I got it tatted on me and everything. It's like, it's whatever you want it to be,
Yeah.
you know, and as cliche as that sounds, it's still, I feel like when people, I'll get people that'll hit me like on IG and be like, yo, what happened? Like they think I'm there or some shit. Or they'll be like, yo, why do you post these? And I'm like, well, what do you feel when you see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like whatever they tell me, I'm like, well, that's what it means. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll tell them what it means to me. And you know, it's I love it though. I really just love the imagery of it. And it's something that just occurs naturally. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
so many times I'll be watching the news in LA and I'll see a burning palm tree and I'm like, shit, I wish I would have got the alert so I could came and got some content, you know what I mean?
I wish I would
Assuming
have had the
everybody,
alerts.
assuming everybody's safe and, you know, it's not a tragic situation, but, you know, um, yeah, I just, you know,
You're following it though, like that's your thing.
yeah.
Whatever that means to you. I love it. I'm not mad at that. I love how you said, I think they're talking to each other. How are your trees today? How are your leaves today?
It's romantic, you know what I'm saying? In a sense,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, you know, I like, and people even send me, sometimes people send me pictures of palm trees and be like, yo,
I thought about you today.
yeah, you know, this is your vibe, bro, or, you know, whatever the case is. So, you know, aesthetic.
It works. It works. If it works for you, if you like it, we love it, you know? Going into this last segment called All of the Things, just something personal or lighthearted. I wanted to talk about creating and monetizing your art during the time of Rona. Specifically from an artist standpoint, there's been so many things going on, taking place. Not everything that I agree with, but I'm also not an artist where my livelihood comes from having to do live concerts and things of that nature. And with that being shut down, that's affecting people's stuff. And so I've seen anyone from like a French Montana talking about Negroes are about to be broke because they spent their money, or or Tory Lanez doing quarantine radio where he has fucking strippers on Instagram Live, and then
Not
even though
Lane's
he's
MTV, I heard just offered him a situation, but go ahead.
oh, I'm sure they did because to be honest, they have to capitalize too on where the culture is going because their demographic is, I feel like, feeding into Tory Lanez's
1000%.
IG Live, and then you have he's not an artist, but Big Fendi. I only knew about him because I found out he was Nicki Minaj's manager, and there was all this hoorah about how they fell out and how she was the first episode on his podcast. But then he's doing things to help people make their money, and then you have what's his name? Not Cassidy. Casanova talking about like he was like fake cussing someone out for getting him on the OnlyFans website. So what are your thoughts about like how have you been managing? Because there's all these jokes about people they just did not know how to manage their money or they're going broke during these times.
Well, I'm not selling dick pics, first of all, I'll tell you that. And,
He's
just get that out the way, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, yo, I got so many hustles. I'm not gonna knock anybody else's. Get it how you
Yeah.
live. You know what I'm saying? Like, be safe while you do it, and you know, be respectful to others and all that. It's definitely an interesting time, and I'm very excited, to be honest, to see what happens when we come out of it. Like I said, I want to see Versus go live in person. I feel like it has to go that way, and I want to help be a part of that. I'm putting that out into the universe, but also, like, you know, I'd love you to also be a part of this conversation that I plan on having this week. And I feel like we've all been having them. I've tuned into a couple Zoom panels and seen just, you know, where are we going to be at where are we going to be creatively? Where are we going to be at socially? Where are we going to be at, just from a production standpoint? How are we going to pull certain things off? What's going to be the new, way of going about things? Because I had this conversation with somebody, I think yesterday, that like, if they give us a date, let's just say hypothetically there's a date, June 1st, everything's open as far as LA goes. It's either going to be like the 4th of July times 10, where it's going to be like, damn near national holiday, like Freedom Day or something like that. I don't know. But it's going to be that type of vibe where everybody's going to be out and about. It's going to be big traffic, barbecues everywhere, gatherings, because people are going to play. Or it's going to take a while for people to really trust going
I
out
agree.
again.
That's the one I agree with.
And even just from going to a bar, like, do you want to drink out of that glass that they just halfway washed? Like, if some of us know what's up with the whole, that type of behind the scenes of food prep or whatever, like, do you really want to trust that? Are bars going to have to do red cups type of vibe? Are you going to have to buy, a glass, and it's a brand new glass, and that's your beer mug to take, and you keep it for the rest of the night, you just pay for refills? Like, what's going to be the new thing, and how are we going to tap into that? Because I don't think that everybody wants to work. Everyone that I know that was thriving outside is thriving still in some type of way, shape, or form, such as yourself, such as a lot of DJ friends that I have of mine that are going live, enhancing just like their aesthetic online, as far as like the technology that they're incorporating into their stuff. They're using green screens or whatever the case is, like people being innovative and creative and just coming up with new ways. I've been designing IG live templates for people just for free, just because I like doing it and want to see it, become a thing. Like, and shout out to Lil Jon. He had a crazy one the other day. But what are these new things going to be? And I feel like that's the discussion that I'm most interested in right now, as far as post quarantine, workflow.
Yeah, I to contribute to that, I'll say what's been going on, because at least for me, I have to admit, Bunx, what this has forced me to do, because I work in TV production as a freelancer, but the company I work for just did massive layoffs last week, right? And the layoffs are just beginning. They wanted to do them anyways because they had merged with another major company, but they're doing layoffs. And so you start to think about those that are in traditional and maybe even non-traditional fields, creative industries like you and I. When will we get to the place of us now really actually utilizing each other's talents and efforts and services? And so I told myself, to be honest, Bunx, I was like, I'm leaning into my consulting company. I've been giving away free advice to people that have been very valuable as well, and have netted out results for them that they have been that have been favorable, or that they've liked, or that they've utilized. And I said, Bunx, I'm not going to do this anymore. When I moved back to New York last September from Miami, I was like, I want to get to a place where it is not me working for the company only as my only source of income. And I think Rona has really put some people in that place to be like, what is next? And how do I make this fruitful? I guess you could call it a lifetime, that if this was to happen again, or the company was to just let you go, or, for you can still produce and do all the things remotely. If there are certain positions where people no longer can physically be there for whatever reason, how do we acclimate to that? And how do we lean more into really just rooting for ourselves and believing in ourselves? And that, to me, has been my push, because these companies didn't really care about a lot of these people. And unfortunately, I feel like with some of the artists that are going broke, these labels also don't care about a lot of these artists. Like, unless you're a priority, and please correct me because I know this is your field, but unless you're a priority, I feel like they're not really paying that much attention to what you have going on as it relates to whatever projects or things that may require them to spend money that they don't want to spend. Because I even saw ASCAP was going through the motions. Like, how does that affect you as far as like the songwriting aspect?
Nah, ASCAP, that's funny, because I just got my check like yesterday. But actually, like they even like they used to have their dates listed on the website, and you when you'd get your payout.
I read
But
that.
they took all the dates down because it's just so uncertain in terms of, there's a lot of industries where revenue was generated from, right? And those industries are on pause right now. Yep. So venues, bars, restaurants, nightclubs, a lot of places where music is played and where those royalties are collected aren't active right now. So they have to recalculate, and they're also dealing with, of course, abbreviated staff and stuff like that. So they it's a month by month situation, and I get it. And again, I'm blessed and I'm thankful to just have the resources around me.
Yeah.
That, I live alone. I got my own spot. I got my equipment and whatever. All my devices. I have everything I need to create.
Yes, right.
I also want to say that everybody needs to show up because I started working. We did this Kali situation over the quarantine, right? And
Oh, that happened during quarantine? Oh, I thought it happened before. Like you all had.
this happened recently. This was a 2020 situation. It kind of inspired a little bit of the vibe, you know what I'm saying, of the, doing it. She hit me before quarantine, but then once we got into quarantine, it was like, all right, let's get this out the way. So yeah, so everybody needs to show up and just whatever it is that you do, put that forward, present that, let everybody know that you provide whatever service it is. Also, it's a great time to educate yourself. I learned how to do a couple things to help me with my lives, and learn how to do I'm not gonna say it because it's part of my. But I learned I've been learning how to do some cool shit that I'm gonna put my twist on and make it dope and use it to just like create content. And at the same time, historically, it's been said that like in moments, right, in history where there was economic downturn or there was some type of setback or tragedy or whatever the case is, the arts always thrive because that's what people turn to cope and to escape from whatever the situation is that's going on. So we have a duty to continue to create and to continue to thrive and shit like that, because I don't think that Hollywood is going to miss a beat. I think that Hollywood has the resources to, put a movie together and test everybody on set and do it somewhere safe and create content for us still. And we have Netflix and all these other outlets to access the content. Also, on a deeper level, you gotta figure out what your adaptation levels are. How quickly can you adapt? Imagine this whole situation without Wi-Fi. You know what I'm saying? What are you gonna do now? What does that do? Does that shut your whole business down? Can you still function in other ways? Can you burn a CD and mail it to somebody? You know what I'm saying? Like at this point, you gotta consider all of these factors. You know what I'm saying? This is a time to really reflect and really see where you stand in terms of your own survival, whether it has to do with, your business or whatever. So it might not be something you want to think about, but you kind of have to acknowledge it and just make those strides to be prepared for whatever the case is. So it's only going to make you stronger,
I agree with you as far as the arts are concerned. I think, again, from the TV aspect, and I like that you brought that up, to be honest, everyone has to adapt, right? We were out here spending $500,000 on 30-second promos. Okay, well, now you don't have $500,000 to spend on promos because you can't rent the stages, you can't be on location, but you can be in someone's living room and still make the shit look good, or you can be on someone's Skype or Zoom to make things look good, because a lot of these TV shows obviously have been doing that. And so I think everyone's been forced to really reevaluate how they've been doing thing, even like, like a you and me and whoever else is in our circle of things. And so I am excited, Bunx. Please, if you need a voiceover, like, I'm itching to get on somebody's album to do something with my voice. Nothing crazy, but like, if you ever need a voiceover, I'm doing a shameless plug on my podcast. Holla at your girl. I got my equipment. I ordered my equipment. So I've been doing stuff too, on the voiceover tip as well. And so, yeah, man, same to you. I cannot wait to see and really go in on post Rona.
Absolutely.
So tell us how they can find you online, your social media, links, all the things.
I'm Bunx Dadda on all platforms. So that's BUNXDADDA, IG, Twitter, Snapchat. What else?
SoundCloud too, right?
SoundCloud, Spotify,
Hey.
Genius.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we tapped in.
I love it. And so will the track that they heard earlier, is that available on any platforms yet?
It is not.
Okay.
But stay tuned. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Follow me on IG in the meantime. You can stay updated that way. And, reach out to me. I'm always down to give feedback. I'm I'm the type of person where if someone hit me and was like, yo, that song that you played last week was fire. Did you ever drop it? And I'm like, nah. They'll be like, I'll just send it to you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's what's up. Oh, I love that.
I'll just give it to you because like I appreciate you just reaching out in the first place and showing interest. So why would I deprive you of that experience?
Oh, I love that. It's funny because I'll still play the instrumental that I got from you sometimes just because I'm in that mood and I just want to hear the shit and I just vibe out to it working on something else and I'm listening to it in the background. Have you thought about with you saying that? Do you do consulting as well? Like, as I could see people hitting you up from a standpoint like needing some assistance. Music industry wise, like, have you thought about that? Do you do that?
I do that. I don't do it like formally.
Yeah.
But again, I'm very, you can just hit me, like I said, just DM me.
Yeah.
Holler at me. I'm down to rap about something productive for sure.
That's what's up. Bunx, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Make sure you stay safe out there in the La. And hopefully, we'll be able to link up again once outside opens up.
You already know. We outside.
Yes, but I'll see you on your lives and your IG and ting.
All right, for sure.
Okay, have a good one.
All right,
peace. Thank you so much to Bunx Dadda for joining me this week, man. That was fun. You can find me on Twitter, my personal Twitter, at Georgette, GeorGette, and Instagram at Georgette Pierre. You can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at Black Nuance Pod. That's Black, NUANCED Pod. You can find me on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spotify at Black and Nuance Podcast. Just type me down. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me at blacknuancedpod@gmail.com. That's Black, NUANCED Pod. Until next week, I appreciate you. Make sure you leave me comments and ratings and all that jazz on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. I appreciate you so much. Until the next episode, peace, and let this song ride out for you. Callin, you Callin, Dadda.
Name brand, everything clean in ya. Them a pre in ya. Bunx Dadda in HD in ya. Palm trees, step and freeze in ya. Extra magazine, the machine in ya.